Earlier this week, my state of Hawaii and our nation lost a truly great man, Senator Daniel K. Inouye. He began serving our country when he was only 17 years old, joining the Army after the attack on Pearl Harbor. At that time, many questioned the patriotism of people who looked like him, but for Senator Inouye, that was precisely why he joined the service. He was a true patriot. He loved this country and was willing to do whatever he could to defend it. In fact, he lost his arm charging a series of machine gun nests on a hill on San Terenzo, Italy on April 21, 1945. His heroic actions rightly earned him the Medal of Honor. He was the embodiment of the greatest generation: courage, sacrifice, humility, and love of country. It's why the commitment to serve and protect those who fight for our country has always been one he took personally. It's why he always stood up for the ideals of freedom and justice that our country is founded upon, because he saw firsthand what happens when we don't. And it's why he was always proud to stand up for our heritage in Hawaii. The truth is, Senator Inouye deeply loved our beautiful state of Hawaii. Half a century ago, he had a vision of the Hawaii we inherit from him today. Over his many decades of service, he displayed a builder's skill, pouring the foundation of the modern and vibrant Hawaii that is his legacy. And so the greatest tribute we can pay Senator Inouye is to acquire his vision, apply his skills, and build on the remarkable foundation he laid for us. From strengthening our schools and university to building our roads and bridges. And just today, our state marked another milestone led by Senator Inouye. We signed a full funding grant agreement with the U.S. government for our Oahu Rail project. This was a project championed by Senator Inouye for many years through many ups and downs. The senator saw the future of Hawaii often before others did. And when he saw something that was going to better the lives of the people in Hawaii, he always fought for it. This is probably one of the things he will be remembered for the most, his tenacity in fighting for the people of Hawaii and for doing what is right. And while he may have been a fierce competitor, he was always a gentle spirit. In a Washington that at times is so torn apart by partisanship, Dan Inouye always worked to diffuse that situation and bring us together. He understood that words mattered as much as actions, and he always worked to elevate the debate. And he stood by his friends, no matter their political stripes. It's why we've all heard from people on both sides of the aisle, and some who are speaking today, who are so saddened by his death. But what our country lost this week, I received a message from our good friend and brother, Eni Faleomavaega from American Samoa. He is traveling overseas and asked that I mention his deep condolences to the people of Hawaii. And I ask unanimous consent to incorporate it into the record, a statement that we have received from Congressman Faleomavaega.
Without objection, so ordered.
Eni, like so many, calls Senator Inouye a mentor. He taught us all lessons we'll never forget. Simply put, Senator Inouye was an extraordinary person, a giant in the Senate, who accomplished so much for the people of Hawaii and our nation. It is now up to us to carry on that work, to realize his vision, to draw upon his strength of purpose and strength of character, to do what is right. I know the people of Hawaii join me today in pledging to do just that. Aloha, Senator Inouye. Mr. Speaker, I also ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on HRes 839.
Without objection, so ordered.
And now I'd like to yield as much time as he consumes to my colleague from the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas, Kilili Sablan.
Gentleman will proceed.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I also like to express my deepest condolences to the people of Hawaii for their loss of a great senator and a great American. I would not be here today standing in the well of the House if not for Senator Daniel K. Inouye. This beloved leader did so much for many Americans, for so many people of the Pacific, as we are hearing tonight. He touched the lives of so many individuals, including my own life. In 1986, Senator Inouye gave me the opportunity to work as a fellow in his office here at the Capitol. Senator Inouye had established a program to bring young men and women from the Pacific Islands to Washington to learn about Congress and the United States government. We came from American Samoa and from the Northern Mariana Islands, my home. What an opportunity Senator Inouye gave us. What an eye-opening experience to see Congress at work. What an education to watch up close this distinguished man of the Senate, by turns dignified, gracious, good-humored, principled, quiet, and when called to defend the forgotten, fierce and formidable. I was inspired, seeing what an elected official could be, what he could do to bring justice to this world. I dared to dream of one day doing the same. The Northern Mariana Islands did not even have a seat in Congress in 1986. That did not happen until 23 years later. But throughout those 23 years, I held that dream deep in my heart, the dream that Senator Daniel Inouye planted, that someday I could represent my people, as I had seen him represent the people of Hawaii and America. I will admit that dream did not always burn lightly. There were times when I did not tend the flames. But when the day came that Congress granted a seat to the people of the Northern Mariana Islands, that flame roared to life. That inspiration that Daniel K. Inouye had lit in my heart was still alive, fed by the ideals that he had instilled in me those many years ago. The ideal that we're all equals in this great country, as citizens and as individuals, and that against all odds, we can overcome poverty, we can overcome prejudice, we can overcome terrible physical injury and survive stronger than ever. We can survive and prevail if we believe in the inherent decency and goodness of America, as Senator Daniel K. Inouye believed, if we are not afraid to dream. And so I dreamt, inspired by this man, aided by the opportunity he once gave to me. And tonight, Mr. Speaker, I stand here in the well of this hollow chamber to say thank you to Daniel K. Inouye. Thank you, Senator Inouye, for showing me the way here. Thank you, sir, for showing us all what it means to be a true member of Congress. Thank you and good night. Rest well. We shall always remember you. And I yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Speaker, I now would like to yield such time as he may consume to my good friend from Alaska, Congressman Don Young.
I thank the good lady for yielding. This is a solemn moment. The gentleman of the Marianas just gave a presentation. And I'd like to think Senator Inouye and I played a role in making sure he could stand on this floor and give that presentation. Danny Inouye, the senator from Hawaii, actually the third senator from Alaska. Danny was always able, and excuse me, Danny, for saying this, I don't want to call you senator this time, but just Danny. He was always able to reach across the aisle and solve problems of the non-contiguous states with my good friend Senator Stevens. Hand in hand, two veterans, one that lost the arm and one that flew 36 missions over the hump. Together they were one, they were brothers, and they said that so many times. Brothers in arms, brothers in supporting two non-contiguous states, brothers in solving problems for people, across the aisle. I didn't serve with Danny, but I knew him well because he was the friend of my people, the Alaska Natives. In fact, we had him last year or 2 years ago up into the AFN convention speaking to the needs and necessity for the Hawaiian Natives to be recognized as Alaska Natives were. He was an icon, a person that could work together. And think about this, a young man that was Japanese. Not in an intern camp, volunteered for the America that he loved. He loved and served and lost, but he always won. He always won. But he did that by reaching the one arm he had left in his hand and shaking that hand and saying, let's do it together. Let's work together. Let's not have the animosity, the rancor that's occurring today. In fact, when I think about it a moment, I think, Danny, God bless you. You're in heaven. Hawaii is better off. Alaska is better off. But if we don't change our ways, you would be terribly disappointed. You would not be happy the way things are happening in this Congress, including the United States Senate. And so, Danny, I will tell you one thing. You have Alaskans, especially my people, my wife, my children, and my grandchildren, that thank you for the efforts you put forth to take the Aboriginal people and bring them into the mainstream of life with the help of Senator Ted Stevens. So God bless you, Danny, Senator for Hawaii and the third Senator for the state of Alaska. And I yield back.
Mr. Speaker, I now yield such time as she may consume to my friend from California, Congresswoman Doris Matsui.
Gentlelady yields. Gentlelady is recognized, from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank my friend, the gentlelady from Hawaii, for organizing this time for all of us to honor Daniel Inouye. It's with heavy heart that I rise here today in support of this resolution honoring the late Senator Inouye. On December 17th, our country lost a beloved leader, an American hero, and a man I was honored to call my friend. Rising to become the most senior member of the United States Senate, Senator Inouye will be remembered not only for his distinguished record as a legislator, but also for his heroism on the battlefield. Senator Inouye served his country on the battlefields of Europe during World War II and earned the nation's highest honor, the military valor, the Medal of Honor. As a soldier, Senator Inouye fought for the lives of American citizens back home to protect his fellow servicemen and also for the ideals our country stands for: equality, justice, and freedom. When he joined politics, the only thing that changed was his battlefield. Senator Inouye was a giant in Congress who demonstrated his strong love for his country and belief in the American ideals with every action he took. He was a man who stood by his convictions and fought for what he believed, and was never afraid to reach across the aisle and look for bipartisan solutions to some of our nation's most pressing problems. And while his presence was certainly strongly felt here in the Capitol, he remained accessible to and loved, not only by his constituents in Hawaii, but across this country. When I put the word out to my California constituents that Senator Inouye had passed away, that Congress had lost one of its greatest leaders, I received an outpouring of comments from my constituents expressing their sorrow and sharing stories of ways that Senator Inouye had touched their lives. Even in my district of Sacramento, California, Senator Inouye was well known, well respected, and well loved. As the highest serving Asian American in our country's history, Senator Inouye was a true inspiration to Asian American community. As a member of Congress, my late husband, Bob Matsui, worked closely with Senator Inouye on the movement for Japanese American redress and reparations. Together with colleagues, they helped secure a formal government apology for innocent Japanese Americans who were victims of one of our country's darkest moments. It would be impossible to find a stronger voice for our nation's veterans than Senator Inouye. He was instrumental in getting the Congressional Gold Medal awarded to several military units from World War II, units who were composed almost entirely of persons of Japanese ancestry and exhibited exceptional bravery on the battlefield, while their own families were in internment camps here at home. Earlier this year, I worked closely with Senator Inouye to ensure that the Congressional Gold Medal toured the country so everyone could have the opportunity to learn about the bravery and heroism of these veterans. This is the type of man Senator Inouye was. He was a man who, up to the very end, worked tirelessly to bring recognition to those who deserve it the most. Senator Inouye devoted his life to serving his country. He was an inspiration and a role model, a real role model, an example of what every public servant should strive to be. My thoughts and prayers are with his wife Irene, his son Ken, and their family, and especially to his granddaughter Maggie, who we will make sure hear about the stories of her great-grandfather. On a personal level, when my husband passed away some 8 years ago, I recall how generous and sincere Danny Inouye was towards me and my family during those difficult days. I know this is a difficult time, but it is my sincere hope that there is some comfort in knowing that his legacy of remarkable service and dedication to our country, his love of country, will live on for generations to come. He was truly a giant. I yield back. Reminder of my time.
The lady yields back. The gentlelady from Hawaii is recognized.
I would now like to yield such time as she may consume to my friend from California, Judy Chu.
The gentlelady from California is recognized.
Earlier this week, our country lost a valiant war hero and one of the greatest statesmen of our time with the passing of Senator Daniel K. Inouye. Senator Inouye was an inspirational leader and a true American patriot in every sense of the word. In fact, it's hard to think of the state of Hawaii without Daniel Inouye. Since the moment Hawaii gained statehood in 1959, he has represented the Aloha State in Congress and ensured that Hawaii and others in the Pacific region have access to resources and facilities that many on the continental U.S. take for granted. Even though he was labeled an enemy alien during World War II, he made the decision to enlist in the Japanese American Go for Broke 442nd Regimental Combat Team. He fought bravely, even as thousands of Japanese Americans were unjustly placed in internment camps at home. In one terrible battle in Italy, he led an assault against a heavily defended ridge. Germans shot at him with machine guns, destroying his right arm. Despite that, he was still able to destroy the German bunker. His bravery earned him the Medal of Honor and the Congressional Gold Medal, and for that alone, he will always be remembered as a true American hero. But Senator Inouye's service to our country extends far beyond World War II. He was a trailblazer in politics when there were few Asian Americans. He rose through the ranks, becoming the chairman of the powerful Senate Appropriations Committee and the President Pro Tem of the U.S. Senate, and became our highest-ranking Asian American politician. He broke barriers and paved the way for countless Asian American and Pacific Islanders in public service. In my role as chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, I truly valued his guidance as a founder and longtime executive board member of our caucus. He was a tireless advocate for both the people of Hawaii and the broader Asian American and Pacific Islander community. All of us who had the honor to know and learn from him will dearly miss his leadership and the honor and integrity that he brought to the job. My heart goes out to his wife, Irene Hirono Inouye, his son, Daniel Ken Inouye Jr., and the many family, friends, colleagues, and constituents for their tremendous loss. So, aloha, Senator Inouye. Thank you for your lifetime of service. While your passing has left us with a great void, we know that your legacy will continue to live on in the many accomplishments you leave behind and in the generations you've inspired through your service to our country.
Gentlelady from Hawaii is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I now yield such time as she may consume to my friend and colleague from Hawaii, Congresswoman Colleen Hanabusa.
The lady from Hawaii yields, and the chair recognizes the gentlelady from Hawaii.
Thank you. And thank you to my colleague from Hawaii for doing this. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of the Resolution 839, which relates to the death of the Honorable Daniel K. Inouye, Senator from the state of Hawaii. I know that as the most senior member of the United States Senate, as the Appropriations Chair, and as a true war hero, Senator Inouye will be remembered in Washington, in Hawaii, and across the nation. Tomorrow, he will be given one of the highest honors of anyone in this country, and that is to be able to lie in state in this capital. But for me, the passing strikes deeper because he was also my mentor and a dear friend. I had the honor of having lunch with Senator Inouye just before he went into the hospital, and we discussed many things. Know that his love and concern for Hawaii and for America has never wavered. He never stopped thinking about how things could be made better, who we could help, and what we could accomplish. He was, of course, a force to be reckoned with. And as I said at the time, I just couldn't think of Hawaii without Senator Inouye. Since his passing, statements like the congressman from Alaska just said about Senator being their third senator has been made by other congressmen to me as well. So you know that his impact was felt very deeply throughout this country. As long as Hawaii has been a state, Dan Inouye served us in Washington, us meaning the people of Hawaii. For most people in Hawaii, he was always there, as dependable as the sunrise. And yet, he was never proud, never acted as though he was better than the people he represented. I can tell you from personal experience that it is just impossible to be an elected official in Hawaii without being in awe of Daniel K. Inouye, someone who served so long, accomplished so much, and yet made it seem so effortless. Hawaii was and is a grassroots state. You need to get out there with the people, share their activities, eat their food. Now that's really critical. Laugh at their jokes. And there was Dan Inouye, the war hero, recipient of the Medal of Honor, U.S. Senator, an iconic force in Hawaii's history and politics. And he just fit right in. Us, the people of Hawaii, we can spot a phony a mile away, but we loved him because we knew he was the real thing. He was genuine. So here was the most senior member of the Senate, chair of the Appropriations Committee, President Pro Tem, and third in line to the succession to the presidency. But in his heart, he was no different. than that kid growing up in the territorial Hawaii, not wearing shoes until he got to high school. By the way, not wearing shoes we called going hadashi in Hawaii, who volunteered just out of high school to serve his country in war. And I think that's why, when he ran for re-election, his bumper stickers didn't say Senator Inouye or Daniel K. Inouye. It just said Dan. I still remember his political poster when I began to recognize political posters. Solid black with Dan, his signature, in yellow. Simple, yet strong as he was. I didn't know at that time the significance of the colors. Those were the colors of his alma mater, McKinley High School. Again, a statement that he never forgot where he came from. For me, knowing Dan Inouye and learning from him, that down-to-earth nature was a very special thing. When he shared his insights about serving the people who elected us and doing what is right for Hawaii and America, I knew it was coming from his heart. Not just that. What he was doing was advising to show the true love for the people he served, but also that he was sharing these insights with me because he cared enough about me to pass on the lessons. He genuinely wanted me to do better. Quietly, with that great smile and that beautiful, resonant voice, he gave that gift of his experience and his wisdom. A man of such accomplishments and power, who was unbelievably generous of himself. I will never forget that gift from my friend Dan Inouye. For the next few days, as we say goodbye to a genuine hero, a champion of Hawaii, a political icon, I hope, Mr. Speaker, you will join us in remembering a wonderful man and to pass this resolution so that we may all say, Aloha, Dan, mahalo, and thank you. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields back. The lady from Hawaii is recognized.
I now yield such time as he may consume to my good friend from California, Congressman Mike Honda.
The gentleman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Speaker. I too rise today with a heavy heart to honor and remember Senator Dan Inouye. On December 17, 2012, the state of Hawaii, our nation, the Asian Americans and Pacific Islander community, and all champions of social justice and change lost our Polaris, our guiding light, our guiding star, Senator Daniel K. Inouye. I'm deeply saddened by the passing of my dear friend who has been a hero to us all, his ohana. From his service to the battlefields of World War II, we mention the Medal of Honor, to the Senate floor. In serving the Aloha State of Congress since it achieved statehood in 1959 and rising to become the highest ranking Asian Pacific Islander politician in our nation's history, his impact on our lives and our community is immeasurable and unparalleled. The senator has had a deep sense and reflected a deep sense of dignity in spite of any kinds of situations that may surround him. A quiet calm of strength, even in the battlefields to the halls of Congress. We know that during the time of Watergate, he was slighted and insulted through a racial slur. But he did not change and exchange one for another. He just reflected his quiet and strength and dignity by not responding at all. The rest of the country did for him. And as he went through the Watergate process, he showed that he could serve and deal with justice with an even hand. And with that, he showed that this country can deal with all kinds of problems that it faces. As chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, Senator Inouye worked across the aisle to ensure that the needs of people of Hawaii and the sovereign rights of Native Hawaiians and other indigenous people, as our friend Don Young had mentioned, and as well as the AAPI communities were priorities of this government. During the 70s and 80s, Senator Inouye played a critical role in making sure that this country understood its behavior towards the Japanese Americans on the mainland and in Hawaii. There was an effort to secure an apology, a recognition of the wrongdoings, and also move forward with the idea of reparations. But it didn't seem like they were making much progress. He wisely said to the leadership of this movement, perhaps we need to do a study and a commission to educate and inform the rest of the members of this body to understand what it is that we are fighting for. And so came about the World War II Commission on Internment. And through the commission's study, and they're gathering information across this country and listening to testimony from people who were aged to the people who were younger, securing information, validating the position of those who were seeking an apology from this government, came the conclusion and the final decision to move forward with a bill, Bill 442, to rescind Executive Order 9022 and 9044, and also to make sure that this country understood the reasons for the incarceration and internment of Japanese Americans in this country during 1942. The conclusion of that commission reflected the wisdom of Senator Inouye. The conclusion of the commission said the reason why internment happened to Americans of Japanese descent was because of war hysteria, racial prejudice, and the failure of political leadership. And to that, it's been always a reminder for me, when I listen to him and I watch him work, that he will never ever allow the lack of failure of political leadership in this country to ever fall, not on his watch. Since 1959, when I graduated from high school, I reflected back now today of how young he was then and how he stood his ground and guided Alaska and this country through his life and his dedication to public service. And so Senator Inouye proved to be a very devoted husband and a father, and I extend my sincerest condolences to the entire Inouye family. And Senator Inouye's passing may mark an end of an era, one would say, but I would declare and say that his work will continue to impact this country in terms of a continuous attention to his ohana and to the rights of all people, including Aboriginal folks. He once stated in his fight to protect the Filipino World War II veterans, he said about them, he said, heroes should never be forgotten or ignored. And he always continued to make sure that those who serve this country were not to be forgotten or ignored. So we as a grateful nation will never ever forget the senator from Hawaii, a war hero, a servant through his military service, a servant through his service in the halls of Congress. And so I say to him, aloha nui loha, mahalo. And I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentlelady from Hawaii is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank all of my colleagues who came to the floor tonight to share their experiences and thoughts about Senator Inouye, as well as all my other colleagues who expressed their condolences to Irene Hirono Inouye, his wife, his son Ken, his daughter-in-law, his granddaughter Maggie, and all those who have expressed and shared their experiences with Senator Inouye. This is a man who touched so many lives, not just in Hawaii, but all across the country. And we all know at this point what a great senator he was and all of the good works that he did. But at a time like this, we often hear from just individuals who want to share their very human stories about individual kindnesses that he showed. In fact, one of my colleagues today said, did you know that I was at a function where it was raining and he held an umbrella over my head with his one good arm for an hour? Or how much he cared about the Hansen's disease patients in Kalaupapa, and he invited them to Oahu to meet with Secretary of Transportation Ray LaHood so that the Secretary could hear from these residents who often did not get to travel very much, who could share with the Secretary their own concerns and to ask for his help, and they were helped. So it is always the human dimension to what Senator Inouye did that always struck me, and he did so in a very quiet way. So we honor him, we thank him, and his last words before he passed on was aloha. And Senator, we bid you aloha. We love you. Aloha.